Hello everyone, my name is Natalie of the Alternative Belgium History channel, and in this video we will tackle what is without a doubt the most painful, controversial and even for a very long time taboo aspect of the Nazi occupation of Belgium during the Second World War. It was the collaboration of approximately 100,000 Belgians, which was at the time 1.2% of the Belgian population. Now, when I went to school in the 90s, history classes started to mention the collaboration, but barely. So it's only really in the last decade or so that more information on the collaboration reaches the general public, for instance, through popular TV programs. Now, first, it is important to explain what exactly collaboration means in this context, because after the war ended, many people were branded, were punished by angry mobs as collaborators, including women who had been involved with Germans. But it was, and it still is, hard to tell how voluntarily this was. So, collaborators, they carry out the objectives of the occupier consciously and without coercion. This collaboration can be of a political, military, police, cultural, or economic nature. Collaborators in Belgium were referred to as the Blacks. Military collaboration was, of course, the most visible and, of course, also the worst type of collaboration, but it was also most likely to be prosecuted and punished after the war. Most military collaborators were members of collaborating political parties such as the VNV, or the Vlag in Flanders, and the Rexist Party in Wallonia. I'll talk about these parties a bit more later on. All of these were basically fighting for the occupying forces, the Germans' recognition and approval, and the most effective way to prove their allegiance was by fighting for and with them. The Flemish Legion and the Walloon Legion, they were deployed on the Eastern Front as part of the Waffen-SS. A total of 18,000 Belgians enlisted in these. Belgians supported the Germans at the front not only as soldiers, but also as volunteer drivers, mechanics, builders, as part of the NSKK, or if I would translate it, that would be the Nationalist Socialist Motor Corps, or of Organisation Tod, carrying out construction work, for instance, on the Atlantic Wall. They were often armed on the Eastern Front. 7,000 Belgians were convicted for military collaboration as part of these. But not all military collaborators went to fight abroad for the Germans. Paramilitary groups were set up to take over tasks from the occupying army, namely the Flemish Guard and the Walloon Guard, or the Garde Wallonne. They performed guard duties or were deployed against the resistance. Approximately 8,500 Belgians were part of these. Some were politically motivated, but many enlisted in order to make a living or to avoid being sent to Germany for compulsory labor. Now, for other collaborators, the occupation was the perfect opportunity to reach higher political positions or to gain control over their environment. When the Germans took over after the surrender of the Belgian army, they established a military administration under the leadership of Alexander von Falkenhausen. The main tasks of this Militärverwaltung, or military administration, were to restore and maintain order and to exploit the Belgian infrastructure and manpower for the German war efforts. For effective administration, the Germans continued to rely on the existing Belgian structure. Of course, the pre-war Belgian government had fled to London in May 1940 and was now a government in exile. In German-occupied Belgium, the tasks of governing was taken over by 12 secretaries general. Especially the Flemish Nationalist Party, VNV, was very eager to play a role in establishing a new order under German authority. The party linked its fate to that of Germany and now explicitly called itself National Socialist. On the Walloon side, there was the far-right Catholic nationalist Rex Party of Léon de Grelle. By the end of 1941, already 8 of the 12 secretaries general were collaborators. The occupation also tried to put pro-German pawns in lower positions of power. Many disobedient mayors were replaced by loyal pro-German and pro-New Order mayors. Now, this change of power at the various levels of the political stage gave many people the opportunity to obtain a position that would never have come within their reach without the occupation. When we're talking about economic collaboration, it gets less clear cut. It was generally considered inevitable to continue production, and even if the occupier benefited from that, especially in food supply and other basic products that also the locals depended on, keeping the factories running also protected employees from being sent to Germany for compulsory labor. But the line was drawn at producing war material, including production of uniforms, weapons, bunkers, barracks. Employers who did cross this line were prosecuted after the war. Factory owners were also supposed to limit production as much as possible. There were definitely different shades of grey in the intensity of collaboration, with the nature of production, the treatment of workers, and the degree of profit seeking playing a very important role. For instance, the beige clothing manufacturer who manufactured German uniforms. They were definitely not the only ones, but what determined their post-war conviction is the fact that they actively tried to gain a foothold in the German uniform market, and they even offered a varied range of products. So they were obviously focused on making a profit here. It becomes even more complicated and ambiguous when you consider the farmers, the food traders, the inspectors, who were often considered by the local population as the worst war profiteers because of the extreme high prices they were asking. But why did many Belgians choose to collaborate consciously and without coercion? It's clear that many collaborators considered the German occupation as an excellent opportunity to advance their own interests, be it money or power. But others had ideological motives, and those were not necessarily 100% the fascist, Nazi, anti Semitic, anti communist ideology of the Nazis. Just like in the rest of the world, the economic despair of the Great Depression had many people wishing for a new order, away from the rotten systems of capitalism and even of democracy. Communism was one new order, far-right fascism or Hitler's National Socialism was another. Both movements promising change were already present in Belgium before German occupation. But specifically for Flanders, the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium, there were additional ideological motives. The fight over equal linguistic rights for the Flemish Dutch language in Belgium was still in full force when the war started, and the Flemish nationalists hoped that aligning themselves with the German occupiers would advance their case, since Dutch is also a Germanic language and therefore its speakers a Germanic people. They believed that the Germans would dissolve the Belgian state in favor of an independent Flanders in a Germanic European Union. These Flemish nationalists did not want Flanders or Belgium to become part of a greater Germany, and we could say that they were not necessarily strong believers in the Nazi ideology, at least not all of them, but that they were using it for their own benefits. In reality, the Germans were using them instead of the other way around. They were never going to get what they wanted. A special case of collaboration was the NMBS, the Belgian Railway Organization or company. The trains kept running during the German occupation, but it was of course responsible also for the supply of a large part of the raw materials for industry, but also food for the Belgian population. Collaboration with the German occupier seemed inevitable, but had undoubtedly also a darker shade of grey side as well. Between 41 and 44, the Belgian railways assisted in the deportation of 189,542 Belgian forced laborers, 25,490 Jews, 16,081 political prisoners, and 353 Roma to Germany and the camps in the east. The company claimed that it was impossible to refuse and that military service to the occupier was a necessary price for maintaining Belgian transport and food supplies. It has to be mentioned here as well that there was extensive organized resistance at the Belgian railways as well. They excelled in sabotage and intelligence, and it was from bottom to the top. Even in the various NMBS directorates, there were members of the resistance. After the war, angry mobs led by members of the resistance took the law into their own hands and punished, arrested, tortured people that they believed collaborated, no matter the shade of grey. Many military collaborators fled to Germany and joined the German defense. After the war, about 37,000 Belgians were punished for military collaboration. But there were more. Minimum 2,000 Belgians died while working for the Germans. Hundreds were killed by the resistance, and a few escaped legal prosecution. Punishment for Walloon collaborators of the Rexist Party, for instance, were harsher, mostly because of their isolated position within Walloon society. Flemish collaboration was deeper rooted in society because Flemish nationalism is embedded in the Flemish movement, and there were relatively more intellectuals, artists, writers, and prominent people involved. And they offered ammunition to excuse the Flemish nationalist collaboration. This was just a quick overview of some of the aspects of collaboration in Belgium. Now, if you want to go more into detail about this, check out the CG Soma, the CG Soma website on World War II in Belgium. I'll add the link here to the video and also underneath. It has lots of photos and explanation on different aspects of collaboration, but also resistance in Belgium. I'll try to also make a similar video on the resistance in Belgium soon. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to stay updated on new videos, not only about the Second World War, but also the First World War and other aspects of Belgian history. Thank you.